Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are unpacking one of the absolute most talked about wellness topics of the last decade. We're looking at a fascinating physiological breakdown by Dr. Eric Berg that completely reevaluates everything we thought we knew about apple cider vinegar. If you love understanding the actual literal mechanics of how things work inside the human body, well, you are in for an incredible ride.
So I've got to ask, do you know the true biological mechanism behind this massive health trend? I mean, we see it everywhere, right? People are drinking it for digestion, for weight loss, immune support, joint pain, you name it. But what is it actually doing on a cellular level? Dr. Berg suggests the real answer is entirely different from what most of the mainstream wellness world claims.
All right, let's just dive right into this by busting a major myth up front. The common belief is that apple cider vinegar is this incredible superfood packed with vitamins, but the reality, according to Dr. Berg, it doesn't actually have a lot of vitamin A, vitamin C, or minerals. The true hero, the actual engine driving the whole shebang, is just one specific component: acetic acid.
To really grasp how this works, here is our roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover the great ACV myth, then the power of acetic acid, the systemic alkalosis problem, symptoms of an alkaline body, reversing alkalosis with ACV, and we'll wrap up with the daily ACV recipe. Starting with Part 1, the power of acetic acid. It's all about the chemistry.
So the magic of apple cider vinegar isn't found in some complex array of vitamins. It's literally all about the chemistry of acetic acid. This is the compound that actively shifts how our entire body operates. And the number you absolutely need to remember here is 2.5. That is the intensely acidic pH level of acetic acid. To put that into perspective, a pH of 2.5 is nearly identical to the extreme acidity of our own stomach acid. It is way, way down there on the pH scale. And as we're going to see, introducing this intense acidity into the body solves a massive physiological problem.
Which brings us to Part 2. The systemic alkalosis problem, the counterintuitive pH crisis.
This is a concept that completely flips conventional wisdom on its head. For years, popular health philosophy has told us that our bodies are too acidic, right? And that we need to alkalize. Well, Dr. Berg argues that most people are actually suffering from the exact opposite, systemic alkalosis. They're way too alkaline. Systemic alkalosis is a condition where the overall blood pH becomes excessively alkaline. Now, your blood should be slightly alkaline, but when it goes too far, it triggers a total crisis. It stops your body from transporting minerals properly, blocks calcium absorption, and just prevents vital enzymes from working. And here's the really tricky part. You can't easily test your true blood pH because the moment blood leaves the body, it oxidizes and the pH immediately changes. Because it's so tough to test accurately, Dr. Berg recommends looking directly at your physical symptoms instead. But how do we get too alkaline in the first place? Dr. Berg cites the SIBA Encyclopedia of Endocrinology, a standard medical textbook, to explain this crazy physiological domino effect. It all starts with stress. High stress triggers high cortisol, our stress hormone. That high cortisol literally forces your body to excrete acid through your urine. As you lose that acid, you develop systemic alkalosis, and that high alkalinity completely blocks your body's ability to absorb calcium.
Moving to Part 3, symptoms of an alkaline body, when calcium gets stuck. Think about it. If your body can't absorb calcium because your blood is too alkaline, that calcium doesn't just magically vanish. It gets stuck. It starts building up in all the wrong places throughout your soft tissues. Notice how this systemic alkalosis shows up as we age. When unabsorbed calcium builds up in the eyes, you can develop cataracts. When it deposits in the joints, you get the stiffness of arthritis and bursitis. In the nerves, it causes neuritis. In the kidneys and gallbladder, it forms stones. It even shows up on your teeth as tartar. It's like a giant puzzle, where all these seemingly unrelated conditions trace their roots back to this one single systemic pH problem.
You know when you've been really stressed out and suddenly your left eyelid starts doing that weird twitching thing, or you get a terrible cramp in your calf? Dr. Berg notes that this is actually a localized calcium deficiency. The stress made you alkaline, the alkalinity blocked the calcium, and now your muscles are just misfiring. You could literally take all the calcium supplements in the world, but if your pH isn't right, your body simply won't absorb it.
And the cascade doesn't stop with calcium, unfortunately. An overly alkaline body also triggers a severe loss of potassium. And when you lose potassium, you become even more alkaline, creating this awful vicious cycle. This potassium deficiency leads to a whole new wheel of secondary symptoms: high blood pressure, constipation, chronic fatigue, and even irregular heartbeats. According to this breakdown, when people say apple cider vinegar cured these issues, it's actually because correcting the pH stopped the loss of potassium.
Now for part 4, reversing alkalosis with ACV, restoring the acid balance.
Knowing that stress drains our acid and leaves our minerals stuck or depleted, how do we fix it? We have to deliberately introduce a strong acid back into the system to drop the pH, mobilize that trapped calcium, and retain our potassium. This brings us to another huge paradigm shift, specifically regarding digestion. The common myth is that acid reflux and GERD mean you have way too much stomach acid. Actually, scratch that. Dr. Berg explains the reality is the exact opposite. As we get older, our stomachs become more alkaline. The valve at the top of the stomach actually relies on strong acid to trigger it to snap shut. If your stomach is too alkaline, that valve just stays open and the weak acid splashes up. Taking apple cider vinegar adds the necessary intense acid to snap that valve shut and finally stop the reflux.
It also plays a really vital role with our modern diets. Dr. Berg calls apple cider vinegar the antidote to the residue of high protein. See, if you're doing a high-protein keto or Atkins diet, the breakdown of that protein creates a waste chemical called guanidine. Guanidine is highly alkaline. It causes stiffness, nerve pain, and arthritic feelings. Drinking ACV acts as a direct cleanser, beautifully flushing this highly alkaline waste right out of your liver and your body.
Dr. Berg also outlines a pretty controversial take regarding our immunity. When we get sick, we usually reach straight for vitamin C, right? But he points out that most commercial vitamin C is just synthetic ascorbic acid. It's literally manufactured from cornstarch and completely lacks the true vitamin C complex. He asserts that the actual immune-boosting benefit people feel isn't from a fake vitamin, but simply from the acid itself. Because of this, he recommends acetic acid, like apple cider vinegar, as a vastly superior way to support your immune system during a cold or viral infection.
Which brings us to part 5, the daily ACV recipe, Dr. Berg's clinical concoction.
So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that shifting your body away from systemic alkalosis and back toward a proper acidic balance can unlock everything from mineral absorption to better digestion. To do this, Dr. Berg shares this exact daily drink, designed to acidify the stomach, flush out waste, and even stimulate the thyroid for weight loss. Here is exactly how you make it. First, take a glass of water and mix in 2 teaspoons of Bragg's apple cider vinegar. Next, add 1 teaspoon of organic lemon juice. Then, add 1 teaspoon of whole cranberry juice. Just make sure it's pure, with no added apple or grape juices. Oh, and Dr. Berg advises omitting the cranberry if you have a very slow metabolism. Finally, if you like a little kick, you can add a few drops of liquid ginger extract. Dr. Berg recommends drinking this simple, powerful tonic just before your 3 main meals every day to maximize stomach acid and thyroid stimulation. Wow, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today, tracing this fascinating chain reaction from everyday stress to systemic alkalosis to unabsorbed calcium, and finally to the simple acidic antidote. It really leaves us with a compelling question. Could your body's pH actually be the missing puzzle piece to your health? It's a profound thought to consider the next time you experience a random eye twitch, stiff joints, or a bout of heartburn. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible mechanics of your own body.